Did you know that Australia's first $2 coins were made of gold and are now worth several $100s? So they weren't actually $2 coins. They were the equivalent of $2 at the time of the change to decimal currency. In February of 1966, we made the change in Australia from pounds, shillings and pence to dollars and cents. But in that conversion, one sovereign, which was worth 20 shillings, also known as £1, had the equal value of $2. Sovereigns were made in Australia from 1855 right through to 1931. The Perth Mint still produces modern sovereigns, but for most Australian sovereign collectors, the time period is 1855 through to 1931. But back to the story. So, the original sovereigns in Sydney were actually produced with a different alloy. You may have noticed if you've seen some of the early sovereigns from 1855 through to 1870 that they have an it's like a white type appearance, like a comparatively white or a lighter colour, and that's because they used silver as opposed to copper. So after 1870, they stopped using silver as the additive and started using copper, which is where you get that sort of deeper gold appearance as opposed to the silvery, funnily enough, the silvery colour of some of the earlier Sydney Mint sovereigns. So Sydney was the first, and it wasn't until 1872. It was originally meant to be 1871, but for reasons which I'll probably explain in another video, Melbourne didn't join the party until 1872 and began producing sovereigns there as well. Following on from this, the Perth Mint came along in 1899 and started producing their own sovereigns there as well. In addition to the 3 Australian mints, there were a couple of other international mints in both Canada and India, as well as South Africa. So you can identify where your sovereign has been produced by taking a look at the mint mark on your coin. So if you have the letter S, it's obviously been made in Sydney, P is for Perth, M is for Melbourne, C is for Ottawa in Canada, SA is for South Africa, which was in Pretoria, I is for Bombay, which is in India, and if you don't have a mint mark, that will indicate that it was made in London in the UK. Sovereigns have always been a really popular area for collecting, and if you're not interested in the rarer coins, if nothing else, just the gold value alone is something that a lot of people are interested in accumulating them. So if you like accumulating gold, but you also have an interest in history, this is sort of a good meeting in the middle. So worst case scenario, if for unexpected reasons, the collectability component disintegrates from your coin, you've still got a sizable chunk, about 1/4 of an ounce of gold. So to be exact, it's 0.2354 of an ounce of gold per sovereign. You'll also notice most commonly on the sovereigns is Queen Victoria is a very, very common theme on them, on the obverse. So she was the reigning monarch for a lot of the time that the sovereigns were being produced, and you'll see a few different types. So the first that you'll see, the earlier type, is often referred to as the young head. Following on from that, in 1887, we began to see the Jubilee head type, which is a very popular area for collectors if they're wanting to put together a full set of a particular type. It's quite manageable. Moving on from that, we have the veiled head before we enter the Edward VII period, which was from 1902 through to 1910. Another comparatively manageable set if you're looking to put together a whole set of sovereigns. An Edward VII series can be a great way to do that. Moving on, for the remainder of the series, it was King George V who was gracing the obverse of the sovereigns. So that was right through to 1931. You'll see George V on the coins. That's the overview of the sovereign. So if you're interested in learning a little more, feel free to get in touch. If there's a particular area of sovereign collecting that you'd like me to elaborate on, please let me know in the comments, and once I get myself organised, I'll be sure to do a video on it for you. There are some interesting errors and rarities in the sovereign series. At some point down the line, I might do a video on those as well. Special thanks to Jamie Frost for this request. It had been on my mind for a while, and sovereigns being such an interesting and broad field of collecting, it was a little overwhelming for me, so I thought I'd just start with an overview. And as I said, if you want to get a little more into it, please let me know what you'd like to hear more of, and I'll be happy to explain. Thank you very much for watching.